Well, good evening. I want to welcome each and every one of you to another episode of the Teacher Wellness Lounge. We have such a great treat with us today. Uh, I have my special friend here, Sha Von, and we are going to actually talk about resume building. And I
Yes.
know you teachers are thinking, why do I need to talk about that? Well, first of all, if you're following me, you know that at Reignited and at the Teacher Wellness Lounge, we cover all 8 pillars of self-care. And occupational is part of your self-care. And it is a pet peeve of mine. I must be very honest. It is a pet peeve of mine as a recruiter. The types of resumes that I've seen from the teacher level all the way up, really to the building leader level and beyond. So I really want to use this time to um, prepare you. And so I've brought an expert in the field just to help us out. So welcome to the show, Sha Von. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing quite well. I'm very, very excited to talk about this topic today. Very much so.
Good, good, good. And so, I try to be very diligent about, having experts that are on that are passionate, and I know that you are. And I just want our listeners to know that, I really try to practice what I preach. So Sha Von has been a blessing to me. She actually redid my resume, and yes, this is a shameless plug. After she did that, the hits and the matches on LinkedIn were really phenomenal. So I'm not, we just don't have her on because she does bring results. But I want to hand it over to her so that we can hear from her and her expertise. So Sha Von, you are very passionate about resume building and supporting leaders in this field. But first, if you would just give us a little snapshot of what got you into this space, what kind of propelled you to do the work that you're doing.
Definitely, yes. So early on in my career, I pretty much started out in the role of a recruiter. And I also had experience being a manager. And so I kind of built and established relationships while I was in those roles. And while working like the 9 to 5, pretty much, I had a side thing that I was doing where I would help out my closest friends. I would help out some family members with their resumes because I just have a niche for a knack for editing and writing. So then once they started bringing me back some information, basically telling me that the hiring managers would communicate to them, wow, this is a great resume. And they ended up getting the job. I told myself, okay, so how can I monetize off of this?
Right, right.
um, Also from that, my mother's been in corporate for about 30 plus years. So I already have the professionalism and I have a lot of the talent development information just based off of listening to her
Right.
and communicating with her. So that was kind of already in my household as far as communicating and speaking professional, how to communicate, how to
Right.
network. So then from there, when I did start the business, I needed to gain some more insight in regards to how to run a business. So that's when I started signing up for the SBA, SCORE, mentoring. And that really helped me propel my business from there in regards to understanding how business works. And the more contacts that I made, in addition to the clientele I was receiving, I really started to grow my passion even more as far as relating with people and understanding their true need. And after they would leave me, a lot of people would say, you know what, I had such a great experience with you, and I ended up getting a job. So it just it's a win-win situation. So I
Right, right.
realized, you know what, this is something that I really want to do long term. And that's kind of my story in a nutshell, you
I
know.
love it. I love it. And I heard several things. I love the part about mom,
Oh, right.
because I'm a firm believer that some things are taught and some things are caught. And so that's, I think, a perfect example of you just kind of soaking it all in like a sponge. And I don't want my teacher friends out there to be distracted or not pay close attention because you have mentioned corporate America. And something that I am very, very adamant about is really bringing back professionalism to the teaching profession. And hence the topic, right? Does your resume represent you well? And whether you're a teacher that perhaps wants to move up in leadership, or you want to stay in the classroom and create a side hustle, whatever it is, I think you need to stay ready at all times. I often tell people the joke about sitting on a panel and interviewing a teacher. And I mean, she literally admitted at the interview that she couldn't tell you the last time that she created one. And she probably didn't have to tell us that because the paper was so yellow that it was very apparent that she had not touched the resume. And I think that chips away at our profession, right? We would have probably a visceral reaction if an attorney, a doctor, someone that works for corporate America came into an interview and the paper was yellow, right? That would be unspeakable. I mean, they probably wouldn't even get the job. I mean, I know they probably would not get the job.
Right.
How have we evolved to the place to think that that's okay for the teaching profession? I don't know. But I do know that this is an issue.
Right.
And I want teachers to be prepared. Fast forward as a teacher recruiter, and you mentioned recruiting, we have gotten resumes with apple borders and pictures of the potential client, or not potential client, but the potential teacher, right?
Right.
I'm not really sure what colleges are teaching, or career services folks, or even professors, but apple borders should be saved for the classroom to decorate your classroom and not on your resume. Okay. And we don't want a picture.
Right. Don't need the picture of the
You're
border.
cute and we love you, but save the pics for Instagram, Twitter. But we don't want them on the resume. So with all of that being said, and I know we're making joke of it, but the truth of the matter is, again, is that it's about bringing professionalism back to teaching. And I really believe that a resume is critical in that, to that end. So could you just, and I know that you've spent time in corporate, but I know that slowly but surely you have been kind of pivoting and collecting some data, if you will, even if anecdotally, regarding resumes for teachers. So let's kind of drill into that. Could you share with us maybe perhaps a latest experience, or some of the experiences you've been observing or coming into contact as you are working with educators?
Sure, definitely. So the main thing that I've noticed out of dealing with several teachers in different positions is not like, to your point, when you mentioned about the borders or the yellow paper, just not having the most updated information in regards to developing the resume. So for instance, aside from the borders, a lot of people will place on there references available upon request. Now that statement, of course, some time ago was relevant. However, nowadays, organizations, employers, they know that they can reach out to you. They know that they can reach out to you and ask you for your references. So that's just a statement that doesn't need to be placed on a resume anymore. A lot of people, especially, and the teachers, they'll provide me with their resumes. And that's something that I do see quite often, whether it be that or just a simple, you don't have to place your entire address on the resume. So it's just not knowing the updated information or the basic rules to the resumes on what is accepted now and what's not accepted. And a lot of times I do notice that teachers will say, well, the last time I did my resume was when I was out of college, so they've gone to their career centers and they've, sat with the career professional, I guess, at the career center and made the resume. But a lot of times what comes out of that is just a very basic resume, and it doesn't really speak true to the overall teacher and what they can do, or they haven't updated it in some time. The second thing I noticed was teachers are not remembering what they contribute.
Wow.
Altogether. I will sit down in a consultation and I'll ask, okay, so besides your basic responsibilities of, classroom management and doing lesson plans and coordinating with teachers and parents, what have you accomplished? What have you contributed to the school as a whole, or your classroom and students? And then sometimes some teachers will sit and reflect, and they'll say, oh yeah, I forgot that I, started this
Right.
program within the school, and all of a sudden light bulbs flash up,
Right.
so remembering what you do contribute is very impactful for a resume. And ways to be able to remember that would be, even if you have to set a reminder on your phone every quarter or every 2 or 3 months to say, hey, what have you accomplished this month, or what skill set have you learned? Just so that way you can keep a note of it. So that way, when it's time to do the resume, you can include that on the resume.
Right. And I'm just, my brain is going faster than my mouth, because you have said you have hit so many key points, and I love the observation of people are just not being taught, right? Like, it's the assumption that whatever you were given in your college prep would suffice, and to that point, as a recruiter, the truth of the matter is, I follow the trends, and I follow teaching, and I follow the job market. And the truth of the matter is that most teachers that are coming into the profession now, we cannot keep them to 5 years, because people are constantly transitioning, attrition, not happy. This is really not what I thought it was going to be. And then just generationally, right? So really having a resume updated in this day and age, to me, is almost a must.
Right.
And so I think that there's a great opportunity there to really empower teachers, with those tools. Hint, Sha Von, to empower them and keep that fresh, right? Because I'm sure many people don't know that that's no longer required. And the truth is that a lot of times your address, your zip code may cause you to be discriminated against just because of your zip code, right? So a lot of folks are not aware of that, or even what part of the city you live in. But then the other thing I think is so key, and this happened to me, and I'm giving you permission to share my business. That was me, like I could not remember, just trying to keep track with it, with everything. And this is the sad part. And my soapbox is going up. Teachers just do not understand the value that they bring to the table. When someone says to you, hey, you want to run this staff meeting? Like if you're a teacher and you've gone to a workshop and your principal asks you to redeliver the information to your staff, you are building the capacity of your team. But, we just see it as, oh, we just went to the workshop and we're going to, we're just going to redeliver.
Right.
Well, in corporate America, a great corporate trainer, and you're in the field of, the job market, you can make almost 6 figures starting if you are a solid corporate trainer, and teachers don't realize that that's very feasible for them. So I love that you bring that up, and I know many experts say you should really note every day what you've accomplished. I didn't know, there was, and I tell people this all the time. I tried to leave education so many times, but there was one time where I researched what skill sets can a teacher transfer. I could not believe the list. We are project managers. We are a whole lot of things.
Right.
And a lot of the work that we do during the day, during a school year, is very, very impactful, to your point for a resume. So I love that you brought those 2 points up, and then the strategy of noting it down. I think that's
right. I had one more, which was social media presence. A lot of people not a lot of people, but however, when it comes to teachers in specific, what you were mentioning, there have been times where I have asked them, because a lot of times that's my first question is, how's your presence online, on LinkedIn, and not just LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest. because for teachers, it can get a little bit creative where you can utilize different platforms, not just LinkedIn. However, it is important to also make sure that your LinkedIn is up to date as well, showcasing your accomplishments and your skills as well. And also it's a good platform to network with other people, but just making sure that it aligns well with that resume. Even if you're on another social media platform like Facebook, just making sure that it aligns well, especially when you're on your career path, making sure that it aligns well with your purpose or what it is that you're trying to showcase.
Right. So I love that, because that's also a very important and critical point. Your social media is an extension of your brand. And I know so many of us don't see ourselves as a brand, but we really are. And the world sees us that way. So we kind of need to keep up in that respect. And, you know, I'm a Generation Xer, and I'm just like, woo, social media, you know, just the learning curve, the keeping up with everything. But, you know, I have really evolved and embraced it. I am excited when I see teachers on Instagram posting the great work that they're doing. I've connected with some amazing folks. It's a true resource for teachers, especially on Instagram. And of course, Pinterest is probably where the majority of our teachers hang out. But one point I'd love to pivot toward is this whole social media presence. Because although it can be great, you know, of course, it can also have a downside, you know, where, okay, I'm the HR lady, right? So, you know, teachers have lost their jobs because of the content on their social media. You know, I try, as I'm on college campuses and engaging with universities within the state of Georgia and around the country, that your social media presence is important, but more important is the content. Do you have, and I know that this may put you on the spot, but do you have any tips, or can you just at least hone in the point of how important it is for that content to be appropriate, for lack of a better word?
Of course, because it's just very imperative, because nowadays it's going beyond the resume. So before you even get into an interview with someone, people are already, or employers are already taking the time to look you up on social media. So, to case in point for your example, if you do have a Facebook, and let's say you have a LinkedIn as well, and your LinkedIn is very focused, very professional because it's a professional platform. However, your Facebook is showing you with your sunglasses and solo cups, not shooting out the right message.
Red solo cups, by the way.
Red solo cups. Then what I mentioned before, it's not lining up to that. Then people are already going to make a judgment on you, or a judgment to say, you know what, I don't want that. I don't want that type of person or what they're doing. They're already making judgments, upon you once they see the type of things that you're either doing on your other social media, what content you're placing out there. So if you're already being judged, basically, people will probably say no. But we're a visual society now. We're going to be going on there looking and seeing what you're doing. Then that's automatically going to be linked to, are you right for this position if you're doing XYZ? That's not an alignment of the school's culture. That's not an alignment of the next organization's mission statement or culture. So it's imperative to be very, very, just tread lightly when it comes, just making sure you're sticking to professionalism on all rounds of your social media presence when you're on a job.
Congruent. It sounds like to me you're saying it really should be congruent. You know, what's on your resume and what's on your social media should all be congruent. Right. And I love that you bring up that point, and I don't want to make general statements. I just knowing or being around building leaders, principals, APs, I don't know or I have not come across too many that literally do that, like corporate America may, but a principal who's making hiring decisions may not be doing that, or a school system that accepts your application is not necessarily, I don't want to say trolling, but checking you out on social media.
That's a good term, right?
They're not doing that. However, it has been my experience that teachers do it, right? So Let's say you're on a teacher panel, your principal asks you to participate in the panel interview and they share with you, some of the folks that are coming on. Those teachers may want to check out who could possibly be the next colleague. I've
Mhm.
had parents, there have been situations where parents will get on there and
Mhm.
check out the school principal, teachers, their child's teacher, and then don't get caught up in a situation where there's a parent with several children and they
Mhm.
want this one particular teacher. They're gonna keep an eye out on out
Right.
for you, or just new people. So I've seen it really get out of hand. I've seen
Mm.
teachers trolled by students,
Mm.
and then that has gotten really messy. And again, like I said, I've
True.
I've even seen where people are literally fired because they do print off your posts, when it's time
Right.
to let you go if something comes to their attention. So let's just make sure that everything is seamless, that
Right.
everything is congruent. And I really want to encourage people to start cleaning up, you
Right.
know, and I think, to your point about quarterly checking in or writing down every month what accomplishments you've done. I think doing a little social media audit
Right.
is good, and trying to get it while you can. I mean, I got several requests just recently and it was inappropriate. And I was like, oh no, we're not doing this.
Right.
Or
Right.
someone that I am following, I see a pattern of
Mhm.
posts or content
Mhm.
that I feel it doesn't even line up with my values or
Mhm.
the way that how I'm trying to move
Sure.
on social media. I will unfollow, and I'm not trying to be mean, but we kind of got to look at the bigger picture,
Right.
and I have to protect my brand. So I love that you brought up these 3 points. So the first point was keeping abreast of the trends,
Mhm.
of what's really relevant these days and what is not. The idea of really keeping track of your success and what value you bring, and making sure that you have a social media presence, even if it's one channel aside from LinkedIn. Um, I think LinkedIn is a great place for all professionals to be on, and teachers don't tend to be on there, which goes back again to my whole point about professionalism. Do we think that we're not worthy to be on that network of other professionals, superintendents,
Mhm.
CEOs, principals of other schools? So I hope that this gets people's wheels turning, and how
Sure.
your resume is such an important piece, for your own brand building, if you will, and just to
Right.
represent your career well.
Right.
You just never know where that could lead. So do you have any final thoughts or advice for our listeners regarding resume building? I just want you to share any final thoughts before we start to wrap up.
Sure. I do want to touch on or share about some common
Oh
misunderstandings when it comes
yes,
to
yes,
resumes,
yes.
because that is something that I get a lot from, whether it be teachers, from teachers and other individuals. So a lot of people will come and say, I just need, isn't it, it's supposed to be one page? And I'm thinking, if you have an extensive amount of experience, there's no way we'd be able to place it on one page. That may have been something of the past, as far as just have everything on one page, or applying to new graduates. However, if you have been in your career for more than 5 years,
Right.
2 pages is more than acceptable. Now, if you start getting 3 pages, that's when you get into a problem. But two
Okay.
pages now is a good is a new limit for um, exemplifying all of your skills and qualifications. Um, Another thing would be to, if you are weak in some type of skill, do not embellish that on your resume. Stick with the truth, because just because an organization may want you to understand.
Okay. Stick with the truth on your resume
Right.
and everywhere else in your life.
Yes, because just because you may not know something or a specific software, there is resources out here nowadays, simply Google, where you can sign up for a course and take a video so that way you can place that relevant knowledge or skill set on your resume. But do not embellish the truth, because at the end, when you get, let's say you do get to the interview and it comes time for you to talk about that or showcase that, you're wasting your time, you're wasting everyone else's time. So never embellish, even though you may want to get that job. You just don't do that. And you don't, last thing is you do not have to list your entire career history on a resume. Resumes are simply to be focused for the next position that you're going for. And nobody wants to read through when you used to be a customer service representative at AT&T back in 1984. So if you're trying to go for,
or you worked at Kroger or Publix,
right, that's not relevant. So especially if you're going to be an assistant principal, you probably have already obtained the necessary skills and accomplishments that you need to be able to get that role. So we don't need to go back any further than 10 plus years on your resume.
But you know, I would say from personal experience working with you, and you've done 2 resumes for me. The last one, at first I was a little shocked because you put them 20 years almost like in one section. Like, you didn't reduce my career. But then it made so much sense, and it was cleaner. I just feel like, just personally, that it read better when you did that, you know, when you just chunked it in one space. You know, I feel like folks need to feel like they need to put every single detail, and that's not important. And I know that our focus is resumes, but I remember when I was in my prepping to become a therapist, we had a career coaching or career counseling class, and I learned about Curriculumvitas, CV. And I just thought, you know, this is heaven on paper, because that allows you. So I know that we weren't preparing, I guess, to talk about that, but just if you could very quickly touch upon CVs, and maybe that's something we could have you back on a future episode, because that, I think, would be great for principals and assistant principals, or at least aspiring ones.
Right, definitely. So the Curriculumvitas, I like to start from the origin, like it's Latin for your life's work, pretty much. So it's really, really important, especially in the academia, if you will, in that sense, to be able to place any additional information on there, aside from your schooling and aside from your, of course, basic responsibilities. You also can include organizational work that you've done, or you are participated in, any volunteer work that you've done, any professional affiliations that you're associated with. So being able to incorporate that all into one document is very imperative, especially when you are in down the road of being in the educational realm. So that's something that speaks volumes whenever you're able to ensure that you remember everything that you've done and be able to take account of that. That is something that I totally agree with as far as Curriculumvitas, you know, and I would tell everyone to be able, not everyone, but teachers, to have that. Even if moving forward, you need something separate like the resume, because like I mentioned, the resume is just more focused. Being able to have a list of all of your accomplishments, life's work in general, is very important for your career.
Yeah, and you know, and to that end, or to that point, I mean, I remember my professors, his had to be over 10 pages long, because he was putting everything. And you know, that then you go to the other route. But I remember just vividly, even when they had us create our own Curriculumvitas, I was able to put the articles that I've written, the workshops that I've delivered, conferences you've spoken at. You know, teachers do this again all the time. And you just never know where life is going to take you.
True.
You never know, really, like I said, where life is going to take you, where your career can pivot. And so I just think it's so important to really capture your life's work. And I love that you mentioned that. You're so smart. That's why I surround myself with smart people. You know, just having it on paper, because you know, I like to give folks a takeaway at the end of our show. And you know, after talking with you and working with you, Sha Von, I am under the impression now that it really gives you space to honor your work. There's
Right.
just something about writing, right? Write the vision and make it plain. And
Right.
being able to put your life's work on paper may also serve as a tool to help us go back,
Hmm.
see the impact that we've made in education, to see the great work that we've done. And teaching is tough. And so, it's tough and it's getting tougher. And now
Hmm.
we're in a pandemic. And so I think if for nothing else, to be able to just go back on those days that you're feeling kind of down and out, to
Hmm.
go back and see your legacy on paper might
Right.
not be so bad. So, Siobhan, I want to thank you for giving me that aha moment.
Yeah. Yes, definitely.
That aha moment, and just thinking of it in that way,
Hmm.
it makes even more sense to me why occupational self-care is so important.
Right.
Because literally, physically in my body, I felt joy at the thought of doing that. Like I could actually see teachers looking at their work and
Right.
feeling better, feeling inspired
Right.
by their own work. So it
Hmm.
makes sense that, we should really focus on our occupational self-care, making sure that our resumes capture, our body of work, our
Hmm.
CVs capture our body of work, because it is our legacy beyond just trying to land a gig.
Right.
Well,
True.
thank you so much, Siobhan. Could you let our guests know this has been so fruitful? And of course, to my listeners, if you love what you're hearing, don't forget to subscribe. If if I was going to say lesson, that's my teacher hat.
Well, it's somewhat of a
Episode,
lesson.
if this episode touched you in any way, make sure to like it. And I will certainly have Siobhan's information in the description. But could you please let our listeners know where they can find you?
Yes, you can find me on my website is resume, the letter N, lite.com. So that's resumeandlight.com. I'm also on Instagram, \enlighten. And I'm also on Twitter, \enlighten. Yeah, so all of those areas on LinkedIn as well, \enlighten. So all of those areas, you can find me on social media.
Awesome. And again, I will make sure that I put that in the description so that folks can access you. You are certainly a gem and a treasure to me. I want to thank you for agreeing to be on with me.
Of course.
You're just awesome. And
Thank
I
you for
really
having
want
me.
to encourage folks to engage you and get that resume done,
Definitely.
because we are worth it and our profession and teachers are professionals.
Of course.
And so
Yes.
we should have a resume that really highlights that. So thank you so much. Good night, everybody. And I hope you have a great rest of your week. And we will see you again next week. Bye bye.
Bye.